Have you ever wondered how your car can take a few liters of fuel, mix it with air, and turn that into thousands of explosions every minute, without tearing itself apart? That's the mystery behind every gasoline engine. And once you understand what's happening inside those cylinders, things like horsepower, fuel economy, engine size, RPM, and even engine problems start to make a lot more sense. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly how a typical 4-stroke gasoline engine works, from the moment air and fuel enter the engine to the moment power reaches your wheels. We'll look at the pistons, crankshaft, valves, spark plugs, camshaft, and timing system, and then I'll explain how the engine controls all of this thousands of times per minute. Let's start with the basic idea. A car engine is essentially a machine that converts chemical energy into mechanical motion. The fuel contains stored chemical energy. When gasoline burns, it releases that energy as expanding gases. The engine captures the force of those expanding gases and uses it to push pistons. Those pistons move the crankshaft, and the crankshaft eventually sends that rotating motion through the transmission and into the wheels. Most gasoline engines do this using what's called the 4-stroke cycle. The 4 strokes are intake, compression, power, and exhaust. They happen inside the cylinder, and the piston moves up and down to make each stage happen. The clever part is that the engine repeats this cycle incredibly quickly. At highway speeds, an engine may be completing thousands of these cycles every minute. The first step is the intake stroke. The piston starts near the top of the cylinder and moves downward. At the same time, the intake valve opens. As the piston moves down, it creates lower pressure inside the cylinder. Atmospheric pressure then helps push air into the engine through the intake system. In a gasoline engine, fuel is added to that incoming air, either through fuel injectors in the intake system or directly inside the cylinder, depending on the engine design. This air and fuel mixture is what the engine will eventually burn. And here's something many people misunderstand: the engine doesn't really run on gasoline alone. It needs oxygen from the air. The fuel provides the chemical energy, but oxygen allows the combustion process to happen. That's why the amount of air entering the engine has such a big effect on how much power it can produce. Once the piston reaches the bottom of the cylinder, the intake valve closes. Now we move into the compression stroke. The piston travels upward while both valves remain closed. This squeezes the air and fuel mixture into a much smaller space. Compressing the mixture allows the combustion process to produce a much stronger pressure increase when the spark arrives. Think of it like squeezing a spring. You're preparing the mixture so that a small ignition event can create a much larger release of energy. The exact amount of compression depends on the engine's compression ratio, which is one reason engine design has such a big influence on performance, efficiency, and fuel requirements. Now comes the part everyone associates with an engine, the power stroke. As the piston approaches the top of the cylinder, the spark plug produces an electrical spark. That spark ignites the compressed air and fuel mixture. The mixture burns extremely quickly, creating hot, expanding gases. Those gases push against the top of the piston and force it downward. This is where the engine produces useful mechanical power. The piston itself moves in a straight line, but your car needs rotating motion. That's where the connecting rod and crankshaft come in. The connecting rod attaches the piston to the crankshaft. As the piston moves downward, it pushes on the connecting rod. The connecting rod pushes on the crankshaft, and the crankshaft converts that up and down movement into rotation. That rotating crankshaft is the mechanical output of the engine. This is also why an engine doesn't simply stop after one power stroke. A 4-cylinder engine, for example, has multiple pistons working together. Their power strokes are staggered so the crankshaft keeps rotating smoothly. The other cylinders are going through intake, compression, and exhaust while another cylinder is producing power. After the power stroke, the piston reaches the bottom of the cylinder. The engine now needs to get rid of the burned gases. That's the exhaust stroke. The exhaust valve opens, and the piston moves upward. As it travels up, it pushes the spent gases out of the cylinder and into the exhaust system. Those gases then travel through the exhaust manifold and other parts of the exhaust system. Modern vehicles use components such as catalytic converters to reduce harmful emissions before the gases leave the tailpipe. After the exhaust stroke, the piston reaches the top again, the exhaust valve closes, and the cycle starts over with another intake stroke. But here's where things get really interesting. The piston cannot control the valves by itself. The valves need to open and close at exactly the right moments. That's the job of the camshaft. The camshaft has specially shaped lobes that push the valves open as it rotates. Springs or other mechanisms return the valves to their closed positions. The camshaft is connected to the crankshaft through a timing belt, timing chain, or another timing system. And timing is everything. The valves have to open and close at very specific points in the piston's movement. Open them too early or too late, and the engine won't breathe properly. The spark also has to happen at the correct moment. If the timing is wrong, you can lose power, increase fuel consumption, or even cause serious engine damage in some designs. Modern engines take this even further with computer-controlled timing systems. The Engine Control Unit, or ECU, constantly monitors information from sensors around the engine. It can adjust fuel delivery, ignition timing, valve timing, and other parameters depending on engine speed, temperature, throttle position, load, and many other conditions. This is one reason modern engines can be surprisingly efficient. The computer isn't simply turning the engine on and off. It's constantly making tiny adjustments to keep combustion working as efficiently as possible. Now let's talk about RPM. When your dashboard says the engine is running at 3,000 revolutions per minute, that's telling you the crankshaft is rotating 3,000 times per minute. The pistons are moving incredibly fast during this process. In a 4-stroke engine, each individual cylinder completes one full 4-stroke cycle for every 2 rotations of the crankshaft. That means an engine running at 3,000 revolutions per minute is completing about 1,500 4-stroke cycles per minute per cylinder. Multiply that by 4, 6, or 8 cylinders, and you can see why an engine is such a busy machine. But RPM isn't the only thing that determines power. Torque matters too. Torque is essentially twisting force. Horsepower combines torque with how quickly the engine can produce that torque. That's why 2 engines with similar horsepower figures can feel completely different behind the wheel. And then there's the transmission. The engine doesn't drive the wheels directly. The crankshaft sends its rotation to the transmission, which uses different gear ratios to control the relationship between engine speed and wheel speed. At low speeds, the transmission can use a lower gear to multiply torque at the wheels. At higher speeds, it can use higher gears so the engine doesn't have to spin excessively fast. That's how a relatively small engine can move a heavy vehicle from a stop and still cruise efficiently on the highway. Now, here's the part that ties everything together. An engine doesn't make power simply because gasoline is burning. It makes power because the engine controls that combustion inside a sealed cylinder and converts the resulting pressure into controlled mechanical motion. Air comes in. Fuel is added. The mixture is compressed. The spark initiates combustion. Expanding gases push the piston down. The connecting rod transfers that force to the crankshaft. The crankshaft rotates. The transmission changes that rotation into a useful combination of speed and torque. And finally, the wheels turn. At the same time, the engine is lubricating its moving parts with oil, controlling its temperature with the cooling system, managing emissions through the exhaust system, and constantly adjusting operation through electronic controls. All of these systems have to work together. That's why something as simple as an engine misfire can have many possible causes. A problem with fuel delivery, ignition, air supply, compression, timing, or sensors can interrupt that 4-stroke cycle. The engine may still crank, but if one part of that process isn't happening correctly, the cylinder can't produce normal power. If you want to go deeper into engine maintenance, diagnostics, tools, and related car technology, check the description box. I've included additional resources and useful deep dive information there. So the next time you start your car, remember what is happening under the hood. Inside those cylinders, pistons are moving up and down, valves are opening and closing, spark plugs are firing, and the crankshaft is spinning thousands of times every minute. All of that happens in a carefully timed sequence, over and over again, just to turn chemical energy from fuel into motion at your wheels. And that's the real answer to the mystery of how a car engine works: intake, compression, power, exhaust, repeated again and again at incredible speed. If this explanation helped you finally understand what's happening inside an engine, hit the like button and subscribe for more straight-to-the-point car technology and mechanical explainers. And drop a comment below: what part of an engine still confuses you, or what engine topic should I break down next? Your question might be the mystery we solve in the next video.